Alright, so the first thing you need to do before you even start configuring your camera is to actually set up your Atomos device on their website. So you need to go to my.atomos.com, and from there you need to basically install tokens. So on the page of your device, let's go back, you'll see that you have your device here. Click on it, go into here, and you'll see the different features you have. So I recently upgraded to OS 11. So I did install and pay for the feature pack, which basically unlocks a few things like onion skins, frame grabs, and H.265, as well as the Airy False Color. Below that, you'll see this codecs option here, and you're going to want to basically download and install these. They're going to give you this thing called a token. Basically, there's instructions here on how to activate, but essentially you download it and then you just dump it into your Ninja V hard drive that you have connected to your computer. Once you're done loading all the files on there, you just eject it, and then you take it to your Atomos device and stick it in. I did do this with it on, and it did detect it and installed it right away and then just restarted, and everything was licensed after that. So I'll take you over to the camera.
Go up to main. We're at 23.98, 180 degree shutter. Our base ISO is 800. And we can always change that to 12,800 if we wanted to. I am recording in DCI 4K. You want to scroll all the way down to the briefcase for external output, number 11. So here we'll have HDMI resolution. I just have it set to auto. When you're in CinemaDNG mode, it does only send 1080p to the monitor. And then down here in HDMI output settings, I have it on. Output resolution is stuck there. Raw output is set to off. Time code on, record control on. That basically means when I press record here, it'll record and send a trigger to the Ninja to record there too. And then HDMI info display, you want to turn this off. And then I also have this control for HDMI on here as well. So go here and then set this raw output to on. All right, so now we get this message that says, raw signal detective ProRes RAW codec selection is required to view the signal. Press OK to continue with ProRes RAW. Say OK. It will reboot. And there we go. So now we have to go up here. We can see we're at 4.2K, 23.98 FES. Sony FX3, Gamut Cine. And then the recording is grayed now because we're in RAW mode. The next thing I'll show you is how to edit this.
Now that you have your ProRes RAW recorded to your external drive from your Ninja V, it'll show up when you put it into your system. What I typically do, is just leave it here, and then I'll transcode it. But since we're using Final Cut Pro, I will move it to my drive inside of the RAW test folder, footage, and then the ProRes RAW. So let's open up Final Cut Pro. Inside here, we'll import media. Go to my drive, footage, ProRes RAW, grab those, import all, but I want to leave them in place, just making sure that's checked under files here. So import all. And now we have our two clips. The first one is ISO 800. The second one is ISO 12,800. So in here, the camera LUT is slightly wrong. We recorded it in .cine. So let's go ahead and change that. And that just doesn't look right, but whatever. So let's drag it into the timeline and see what happens. All right, over here, we have our video file, the inspector. And then inside of here, we have this modify ProRes RAW settings. So you can click this little eye here after you select the clip, and then you can modify ProRes RAW. So let's drag this into our timeline so we get the clip. So the captured ISO is 800, exposure offset 0, raw to log S-gamut 3.cine. So let's go ahead and just change our ISO settings to 8,000. We can do 125, 100. Basically what I've noticed is whatever your captured ISO is, you can only go lower from there and it look okay. When you go too high, let's go 1,250, that's acceptable. If we go 2,000, bring down the exposure, right? 8,000, now we're blown out, but at least we can change the color temperature to 5,600 or whatever it was, right? So let's just move this back to 800. You basically have all your settings you would want here. So great. Here is our 12,800. So let's make sure that's in the right space. There we go. Looks like a good frame. Let's go to 5600. Now let's go down to 800 and see what happens. So super dark, bring up the exposure. Not so great. You do have to transcode your media. So there's a couple ways to do this. The way I prefer is this software called RawConverter. What RawConverter does is basically takes the ProRes RAW and turns it into CinemaDNG. So let's go select our files. Here they are, open them. All right, so we got two. With CinemaDNG, it is licensed per camera, so I had to buy a license for the FX3. If you have an FX6, you'll have to buy that too. All sorts of things like that. So for this test, let's just do no compression, select folder, and this is where we're gonna dump it. So we're gonna choose this RawConverter folder here, open and convert. Okay, that took about 30 seconds, 35 seconds for those two files to convert. They're about 10 seconds each or whatever. So let's just go look at our destination folder. Here they are. So when you convert to CinemaDNG, instead of a single video file, you get a folder full of images, which are just .dngs, right? And then you get the sound file as well in there. So let's open up DaVinci Resolve. And there's our clip, right? So let's just go to the color page. So if we go over here to the raw settings, we choose whatever works for your computer, full, half, quarter, it doesn't really matter. And then we do clip, white balance, and this is where you can change it. So 600, color space P3D60 with a linear. Now if we go back here, we can change the color temperature, the exposure, sharpness, and set a default by 10. Highlights, I don't really want a lot of highlights. Shadows, no. What do we know about this so far? Basically, if you just record an S-Log3, I think you'll be just fine. RAW is good, but it does come with some complications, such as the color space available in here, and then losing the ISO setting when you do convert from ProRes RAW to DNG. So there is another way to convert this, and it's another paid software called Assimilate. I just have the trial version, but essentially you just open it up and go grab your raw files here, and then open them, put them on the clip, and then essentially you go to player, and then from here you can actually edit your ISO settings if you wanted to before converting into CinemaDNG. So let's say I wanted 100. So go to construct and then render, and then up here it'll have select a media, format single resolution, and then choose ProRes RAW to CinemaDNG, 12-bit. So I know I had 16-bit uncompressed, but I'm not sure if that's linear or log, because Atomos Ninja V records 16-bit linear, but 12-bit log. So I'm just going to go here, and if anyone knows, just let me know which one that is. Output, file name, yes, where's file name, and I'll stick it in under PlayPro Studio Assimilate. So select, okay, yes, and continue. There it is. Since I'm not licensed, it does have this red X on there, so that it's, you can see what it looks like. But if you go to the color page, I mean, it's exactly the same. That linear, there you go. And I'm just going to import the ProRes RAW folder because we don't need to transcode it for this. So I'm not going to copy media. I'm going to leave it where it is. New sequence, import. So here's our clips and our sequence. So let's just go edit sequence settings. ProRes RAW 23976. That looks good. Color management, working space, Rec 709. Okay. Okay. There's our clip. And now we need to go to Effect Controls. Click on this guy. Source. Here's our ProRes RAW settings. So we get exposure and color space. So these are, S-Log3. We can do it in 709 if you wanted to. And you can, edit the exposure however you want, which is essentially kind of changing the ISO, not sure. But it is a slider you get to play with this stuff. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So thanks everyone for watching. If you found this helpful, great.